I'll let him know how much he needs.
It's aspartame free, so it just flavor water. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting of Monday, July the 8th. Corporate Officer, are there any late items tonight?
There are none.
Okay, thank you. Could I have someone bring forward the agenda, please? Councillor Patton, Councillor Van Alphen, all in favor? Great. And then item 4, adoption of minutes from the special council meeting dated June the 24th. Councillor Traynor, Councillor Carlson, all those in favor? Okay. No delegations, so this is the opportunity for the public to comment, maximum of 15 minutes, so 2 minutes per speaker, on any of the items that are listed on the monitor. All right, seeing no one come forward, we'll move on to my mayor's report. Many hours since our last council meeting were spent on working on the request for qualifications with staff and a Summerland consultant. This RFQ submitted last Friday is the first step in, we hope, securing provincial funding for the South Okanagan Food Innovation and Processing Hub. Should the district be selected, the hub will be headquartered in Summerland and provide testing and product development services, food processing, and mentorship and guidance for entrepreneurs and agribusinesses. Council and senior management spent time during the final week of June interviewing our short list of Chief Administrative Officer candidates. The district received many excellent applications, and we are looking forward to working with our selected candidate. We expect to share the announcement with the public within the week. Wednesday the 26th, I attended the Eneas Creek Open House. More on the identified public works later in the agenda. On Thursday, June the 27th, I attended the reception introducing and honoring the 5 Summerland area artists whose work were selected for the 2019 banner program. Work crews have posted banners along the entrances to Summerland and in the downtown core. If you missed participating this year, the call for submissions will be out again every spring from 2020 to 2023. That's directed at you, Councillor Holmes. On Friday morning, I attended the 2019 Summerland Secondary School graduation ceremony. This year, 110 young women and men received their dogwood diplomas. On behalf of Council, congratulations, and we wish you each the very best in the years ahead. July the 1st, I attended the Canada Day celebrations at Memorial Park. Dick Norris raised the flag at the beginning of the formal ceremony. He is now 92. Mr. Norris was the youngest crew member on his ship and one of 150,000 soldiers who landed on Juno Beach on June the 6th, 1944. Thanks again to the Summerland Legion and the Legion's Ladies Auxiliary for organizing the celebration. On Thursday, July 4th, Councillor Holmes and I attended the RDOS meeting. The board supported a community-to-community forum this fall with RDOS area First Nations. Staff is working with the bands to establish an agenda for the forum. The board also selected a number of topics for minister and/or staff meetings for the Union of BC Municipalities Convention in Vancouver. Earlier today, Council also had this discussion, and we hope to schedule a number of meetings with ministers and staff. On the evening of July 4th, I presented the provincial proclamation in support of Collector Car Appreciation Day and Month, then attended the opening of the Summerland Arts Club new show called Razzmatazz at the Arts and Cultural Centre. I had a rare weekend off of mayoral duties and thoroughly enjoyed spending time in my garden and dining out with friends and family. Lastly, I am pleased to welcome Sergeant Dave Preston to the Summerland RCMP detachment. We have been waiting patiently for his arrival and are glad to finally have him on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing to report since you covered a number of the items, and most of the week was spent on a lot of day-to-day type things that normally occur. So nothing out of the ordinary.
Except for getting our new CAO. All right. Now, on to business items. 11.1, the South Okanagan Food Innovation and Processing Hub. Jeremy?
Yes, so this is a request to council to provide a resolution in support of an application which has already been submitted last week. The deadline has passed for the application to the Ministry of Agriculture's Regional Food Innovation and Processing Hubs, RFQ. It is allowable to have a council resolution supporting that it proceed to the next steps if selected. It can be done at any time, so we're bringing it to council now. If there's any questions?
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, thank you. I guess first of all, what exactly is a RFQ? What's a request for qualifications? As opposed to request for proposals?
Any one of us can speak to it.
The request for qualifications is the first step in two. If we get the qualifications is really to show that you've done your homework, you know what the demand or need is in our region, which is the South Okanagan region, and also that we have support from other entities. So although we were only able to put in 2 letters of support, we put in 2 from Okanagan College, Penticton Campus, and Summerland Research and Development Center. We also got letters of support from the economic development arm of Penticton Indian Band, Community Futures, Okanagan School of the Arts, because they have a commercial kitchen, UBCO, City of Penticton, a number of different groups. So we're expecting that they will be making their decision on the request for qualifications fairly soon, because the next step is request for proposal. Hopefully we'll get to that step. And then they want to have their proposed, the 2 centers that, or hubs that win the proposal, they will grant them the monies towards that, and they want to get them started this fall. So we're expecting that there'll be feedback from the province pretty shortly.
Okay, so presumably they have our business plan already, or did we submit that as part of the package, or?
No, the request for qualifications, I think because they wanted to really make it a really concise and succinct application, it was restricted to 15 pages. There were 5 different sections, and each section was restricted to a certain number of pages. And they said quite clearly in the RFQ that any other attachments would not even be read. They wouldn't be accepted. So although we do have the feasibility study and the business plan done, we weren't able to attach it to the RFQ, but we certainly spoke to it in the document itself.
Okay, so can I just follow on. So in the business plan, there are 3 different options. Did we emphasize one particular option?
Yeah, small-scale food processing.
So, but the options were college-led, municipal-led, commissary, contract.
No, for the request for qualifications, I can't remember the smallest of the 3. Then there was a small-scale food processor or a large-scale food processor. And ours is District of Summerland led.
Right.
We put in the proposal.
Okay, thanks.
And, Councillor Barkwell.
What do we know about what the province is looking for and how much money they're budgeting for this project?
Well, for the small-scale food processor, which is the one that we applied for, if you're the selected applicant, I think it's $740,000. Oh, thank you. Director of Finance can answer that question.
I have
Thank
the
you.
application package right in front of me, Madam Mayor.
Fabulous.
The Category 3, which is the Small Scale Food and Innovation Processing Center, has a maximum grant of $500,000.
Okay. And this is the large one, the 700? I was thinking 7.
Yes, Category 2
Okay.
is the full scale,
Okay.
and that's the $750,000.
Okay.
And they don't specify, I mean, often in the grants, they say they'll pay, their funds are expected to cover a third or a quarter or a half or 2/3 or 100%. They don't specify in this one? No.
There's no specification, there's only just a dollar amount attributed to the project itself.
We do know that the funds can't be used for the building, for the facility itself, but it can be used for capital equipment. Any other questions? Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is it the ministry that actually runs this operation, or would it be the district?
What we put in was, for the proposal, was a food processing center, 4 to 6 offices. There will be classroom because there's business mentoring. And it's, because it's a hub, this is where what we're calling the headquarters will be, but groups like Okanagan College with the new Beverage Technology Access Center, and SRDC, Research and Development Center, and Oliver Eats has their own commercial kitchen in Oliver, and there's another one in Penticton at Okanagan School of the Arts at the Shatford Center. Although the district will be running it as the lead, there will be all of these other facilities and services provided by anybody else that's in the hub, that's been identified in the hub.
So collaboration of many.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. You're welcome. Councillor Carlson?
So if we are successful in the first step, is that, would some of the rural dividend funding from that recent recent grant we got be put towards the person who would be helping do the next step? Have we talked about not who that is, but if that's the right place for that grant? You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely, because that I think was the #1 identified project outcome, was moving forward with what then was called the Okanagan Agriculture Innovation Center. Yeah. So that's good. It's good. Okay. So could I have someone bring forward the resolution, please, and please read it? Councillor Carlson?
I will move that the District of Summerland apply to the Ministry of Agriculture's Regional Food Innovation and Processing Hub's request for qualifications number 10554 for the South Okanagan Food Innovation and Processing Hub project, and that the project be authorized to proceed to the request for proposal stage if the district's submission is selected by the Ministry of Agriculture.
Excellent. Seconder, Councillor Patton. Any further discussion on this? Councillor Carlson?
Just briefly, in the last week, from our farm, we've taken thousands of tons of unusable cherries to the landfill, so I think that every step we can take to try and reduce what has to be thrown away because there's no other market for it is really good. And whether this gets to be in Summerland or not, there's a huge demand out there, so I'm glad that the province is paying attention.
Good. Good comment. Anyone else? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And none opposed. And so that goes off tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, on to item 11.2, TD Friends of the Environment Grant Application. Angelique?
Thank you. Juggling between glasses, no glasses. So attached to the report, you'll note the second attachment, Building Climate Resilience in the Okanagan. And if you have a chance to scroll through the 100 or so pages, on page 6, there's a great table of contents that kind of helps give a very big outline of the possibilities in treating the opportunity of tree planting and Indigenous plant exercise at the current cultural hub, the possibilities that exist. So it's identified within the Building Climate Resilience booklet that we can talk about water, fire, invasive species, biodiversity, food security, lots of options. The grant that is available is essentially, there are 3 different streams, and the stream that the Sustainability and Alternative Energy Coordinator and I had been looking at was one to plant trees and Indigenous species. And the thinking was, I've spoken to a few other community members who are interested in having input in what happens on the grounds at that space. And one of them is the chair of the Friends of the Garden Society, which, as you know, being located up at Summerland Research Station, is a somewhat remote location. So we had been batting ideas around about how could the work being done at the cultural center include more outreach and work that would somehow help bring attention to some of our other really interesting attractions. And it was actually Bonnie Fulton who first sent me this building climate resilience document in order to say, what if we somehow found a way to illustrate these concepts? And because the sustainability coordinator and I had talked also about in the future finding a way to illustrate the solar panels that have been installed on the roof, the conversation about how could we use the space as an interpretive center, both inside and outside, to demonstrate the key principles that the District of Summerland is interested in promoting. So it's still very much a work in progress in terms of considering what things could look like. But the intention with this grant would be to apply for the recommended maximum. It's not asking for matching dollars, it's a straight $8,000. And it would be to work with external stakeholders that are not currently represented at the Arts and Cultural Center and at the museum, but who would perhaps be able to contribute both the intelligence and also potentially text. And, of course, there's options to work with Penticton Indian Band. There's a lot of opportunities. So we're looking at asking your permission to apply for that grant and see where we go from there.
Great. Does anyone have questions for Angelique? No questions? Councillor Van Elf?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm looking at the site plan. I'm kind of lost. Whereabouts on the site?
So the site hasn't been identified yet. The site plan is just included to illustrate that there's a fair amount of room there.
Okay, thank you.
And just further to that, the site plan as it currently exists doesn't really serve a lot of what's existing very well because it's evolved over time, and it's sort of an opportunity for a redo, and perhaps in that redo doing something really interesting.
Just a further question, if I may, Madam Mayor. Will there be an opportunity for public art in this space, in amongst the Indigenous?
So the site has already got quite a few pieces of public art, and one of the existing challenges is finding better ways to cite the existing works so that there's a better narrative and a story that could be told. So I'm not opposed to adding more public art, but before we add more, we need to organize what's there. We do have plans to mount the Canada 115 mural on the museum building, but we have deferred placing it there until we've sort of looked in a more fulsome way at how the whole site functions. Because the proposed suggested locations aren't that viewable, and there may be better options once some work's been done.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Angelique? Could you bring the resolution?
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I'll move that staff be directed to apply for up to $8,000 in funding for a tree and indigenous planting to build a community resilience demonstration garden at the green space of the Summerland Arts and Cultural Center and Museum. And that staff be directed to work with community groups and local schools to develop the garden concept.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Traynor? Any further discussion? Okay, Angelique, I think it's a fabulous idea, so carry on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Call the question now. All those in favor? And none opposed. Okay, 11.3, I think this is Angelique again, isn't it? Proposed Route 30 transit service expansion for 2020 and 2021.
So I'll just give a brief explanation of the papers that I handed out. So sitting on at everyone's place, there's the 2018-2019 annual performance summary for Summerland Transit specifically, and the last page, which is a graph that's been put together. I've noticed what I think is a typo, and I haven't had a chance to confirm, but but I'll give you a quick read of what we've got here. This general overview was provided as a response to the request for further information for the last 5 years. And the last page, which is this graph here, quite a simple looking graph, that's the last 5 years. And this annual performance summary essentially serves to give a little bit more of a different assessment if you look at page 2 where it says Summerland Transit. So I'll kind of go over the numbers and what they mean, but just to also give you some specifics. So this request by BC Transit to this council is based on the fact that the Transit Futures Plan, or Transit Future Plan, which was developed in 2014, 2015, in it, there were certain public engagement activities that identified the needs that each region and each transit system had. And so for Summerland, the biggest requests have been an increase in weekend trips and an increase to weekend trips. And we currently have a system that serves people 5 days a week going from inside Summerland and across the divide over to Penticton, over to Penticton. And our service begins in the morning and goes till about 5 o'clock. You know, the last run comes in just 5:40 or something like that. So there's a lot of people who are not served if they want to do evenings. We have modified this system to accommodate high school students so they can get out right after their last class and get into Penticton. So those that work have the ability to get into Penticton. But right now, it's still parents or friends that have to pick them up to get them back to Summerland. So there is the possibility that increasing those evening trips would service that group. Another thing just to note about our transit system is we have a historically large number of subscription-based riders. And what that means is our system, which used to be run by Penticton and District Community Services, which is now One Sky, our system essentially was largely serving their clients. We have a lot of people from Summerland with developmental disabilities who are picked up first thing in the morning, and they get a ride into Summerland to go to work. And they do things like paper shuffle, and they basically are at a day program. So in the afternoons, they come back on those same buses. So what that does, as our system is changed, we also had Handy Dart, which we now no longer have, although people still think we have Handy Dart. We now have what's called On Request. It's the same bus. This is a matter of semantics. Most people still call the thing Handy Dart. The difference is a Handy Dart bus driver can assist a user from their door to the bus. And an on-request driver cannot do that. So it's a little bit of a regulation, and it has to do with the training of drivers, and it also has to do with the liability to the company. So if you look at our numbers from 2014 to 2019, you can see there's a moment in 2017 when the reporting changes, and you can also see that we've gone from having she actually did not put what the para ridership was, but if you notice that by 2017, there's now an ambulatory rides on request and there's a wheelchair rides on request column. They're starting now to keep data in 2017 through to today on who is calling for a ride. So Handy Dart used to be a system where a rider had to qualify. They basically had to be disabled to use Handy Dart. And the way we've changed our bus system, we now allow anyone to call for a ride. You could have to do laundry in Trout Creek, and you need to go into Penticton, and you could call. Aaron, you could use this. You could phone and say, I want a bus. Yes, you can. So what a lot of able-bodied people don't realize is that they actually can use this system. But the thing about this system is because we have this existing set of riders that use it in the morning very early, first ride is fully subscribed, the driver comes back after doing that trip and is available in addition to doing regular rides. In the afternoon, passengers in Summerland are not able to use the on-request service. And the reason for that is our driver is at that point picking up the people from Penticton who took it there first thing in the morning. And so what that means from a very base user level is we have people who are frustrated that in the afternoons they can't use the on-request service. They don't understand, they believe people from Penticton are blocking up their user time. What they don't understand is it's people who are in Penticton who are from Summerland who need this bus to get back to Summerland. So I tell you all of this backstory so that you can appreciate some of our challenges is communicating to people who don't understand anyone can use this bus, including people with wheelchairs can access this bus. It's not called Handy Dart anymore. It's called On Request. It's available, but the system has changed. So we've got a bit of a time over this last couple of years of trying to tell a new narrative, but I'm not quite sure it's sticking because it's really nuanced. You know, the bottom line is we have a bus service. There are restrictions to when it can be used in the on-request manner, but there is still a regularly scheduled route happening. And what these numbers could reflect is the shift as people thought a system they were using was no longer available. And that drop has been a part of the consequence. What you can see has also happened is the taxi saver rides, right around the time that the Handy Dart on-request change occurred, you see the taxi saver rides start going up. So a lot of people who require assistance or a specialized ride are now accessing a taxi saver, which is essentially a voucher that allows them to take a cab for a lower cost. And anyone in a wheelchair who needs to take a cab has to call a cab from Penticton. So a base starting cost is a $50 ride because they charge for the ride to get to Summerland before they take someone anywhere. So I say that to explain these numbers. I mean, this is this is not based in my knowing this data. I'm just telling you what I know about our transit system and how it's evolved over the last couple of years. And I think there are some challenges to our numbers because some of the ways things are being counted may not really reflect the demand that is out there. There could be people who, out of frustration at not being able to get the on-request bus, have given up and are now using taxi savers. I know from speaking to people there is a demand to use our bus more, but there are a lot of people with infirmities who do not understand they can use the existing transit system, that it's a very accessible system. So,
Councillor Holmes.
So whose job is to do this communication, you or BC Transit?
well, there are lots of great ideas of ways to do communication around the transit program, and I would love to undertake them. BC Transit does give advice, and some of the best methods that are proposed are things like giving free bus passes to some community champions who can essentially perform with a buddy system and take a couple of influential people on bus rides as a freebie, and basically gain some traction by word of mouth, right? So that it's not us trying to tell the story, it's people with their fellow riders. So if we would like to undertake some initiatives around communications pieces, I'm happy to bring you a report on some of the strategies that can be used. BC Transit has in the last year or so undergone a tremendous amount of transition, and our personal government relations representative has changed regularly. So to even try and set up some kind of action or promotion has been really challenging.
And then, so, on this chart here, the Summerland ridership, conventional rides, that's Route 30?
Yes. So, and I should say that where I noticed the typo, because the person who sent me this stuff just got it done today, in the year-to-date, June 2019, the number 2577, under custom para ridership, I believe that actually should be up under conventional rides.
Okay, so we don't know 2017 and 2018 number?
Well, looking at the numbers that have been put in here, I actually think what's happened is they've added a category, right? So you're looking at, what you're looking at is two ways of reporting being sandwiched into one. So conventional rides is now called ambulatory rides, because what they're differentiating is the difference between someone who's a wheelchair and someone who can walk on.
Councillor Carlson, did you have a question?
Yes, I'm wondering, so the conversation in a minute is going to turn to adding some evening trips. I'm wondering, based on what you've just said about the afternoon on request and the lack of available space, is that added evening supposed to help alleviate that? Will that reduce the taxi saver rides? Will it in the long run save money? Like, is that part of the reason for evening rides?
Part of the reason for evening rides, in my view, you have essentially two things happening with expanding a pretty small service. First of all, there's the attitude of build it and they will come, right? Provide it and then you'll suddenly have more ridership. We have a very skeleton service right now. Where I see the most room for growth and also the most positive impact of growth is if we can attract more young people to using transit and make it a habit. So we will have the Kelowna expansion occurring in September, no matter what you decide on this piece. And this decision is for 2020, 2021. So we'd be looking again at a fall implementation. But the reason Transit's looking for your approval of these dollar numbers is because they want to know you're going to make sure it's in your 2020 budget this fall, so that they can be guaranteed as they figure out their RFPs for vehicles and all the rest of it, that that's solid. So we're kind of ahead of the game. We still don't even know what's going to happen to the Kelowna rides, whether we'll see a bit of a spike or an uptick in ridership because we've got potential people heading to Kelowna for school. But if we could get more young people taking a bus into Penticton for after-school jobs, there is the greatest likelihood of a somewhat captive audience that up until 16 essentially can only really get into Penticton either by getting a ride from their parents or riding themselves. So as far as impacts go, it's a bit arguable who to serve, but I think that for most of our senior population that is using taxi savers, they're using a system they're most comfortable with based on their sense that the bus won't serve them. And whether they're wrong about that or not, I'd love to help them understand that's not true, but I think that's going to be more of a stretch than it would be to getting young people riding. You know, I'll give you an example of one of the kinds of initiatives you can do with young people. You can combine a recreation and a transit pass. So you basically subsidize a bit of both, and you just do it over the summer months so that young people have a place to go, they use your recreational facilities, they engage in healthy activities, and they're using transit to do it. So you're sort of modeling healthy behaviors. So there's ways we can do things that will encourage ridership with a little bit of a carrot, just incentivizing, no sticks.
Thank you. It's nice to have the explanations.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So by your numbers, we're sitting at about just under 4,800 until the end of June.
I know it's really low right now.
So we're really looking at probably a decline of 40 to 45% ridership for this year.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we're already paying X amount of dollars through the municipality of BC Transit for the service. So we're going to be adding 2, now, if we add the 2 new routes, round trips on the, and this is just weekdays, not weekends, I can only
Right.
assume,
Mhm.
okay? Is there a opt-out if we find that we're investing another $35,000 and our ridership doesn't go up, our ridership, the weeknights isn't there to support that? Like,
So the way the memorandum of understanding works, and then the annual operating agreement that comes out, the memorandum of understanding essentially commits that this council is willing to invest the $35,000 for a year. And the annual operating agreement comes after, which comes when BC Transit takes the money and says, okay, thank you very much. So it is a year commitment. Of course, it's always possible to review. Now, I do want to say, and I think it's really important when we're looking at these numbers, I mentioned there's been a lot of transition. One of the most important things to bear in mind is that between 2018 and 2019, we changed our operating company. So we have had Penticton and District Resource Society as our operating company, driving our buses for the last many years. And this year, in 2019, we changed. Now we're using Barry and Smith, which is Penticton Transit. And the most significant detail of that change isn't the operation of the system, it's the tracking of the numbers. And one of the things I was talking to both the president of Barry and Smith today to kind of understand these differences. And this is not to make excuses for any data, but it's just important for us to know sort of how counting has been happening. A driver on a trip has an Excel spreadsheet with the stop times, and at each one of these stops, a driver has a choice to either list the number of bodies in his bus or to indicate an on-off. So as an example, if I'm a driver and if I stop at the Rosedale stop and I stop at the art gallery and I have 2 people on my bus, if I'm not indicating on-off, I might say there's 2 people on my bus at Rosedale, and I might say there's 2 people on my bus at Wharton. And when someone else looks at my data, they could either say I had 2 people on my bus, or they could say I had 4 people on my bus. So part of our challenge in the record keeping is we're looking at paper documents, individuals, and we're not putting tracking beacons on our users. So there is a large opportunity for human error to creep into this data. And one of the things that is coming, but it's not here yet, there are systems that are being introduced to all the buses that will assist better record keeping, so that we'll actually know how many people on, how many people off, where on, where off. Just like we'll be able to look at our phone to figure out if the bus is running late and when it'll get there. But right now, our system is still relying on paper, and it's relying on number keeping from an individual who's primarily the driver, not a record keeper.
Just to have one question. Looking at this data, the total rides in row 11 for year-to-date June 2019, 4756. That's just 3 months though, isn't it? April, May, and June?
I'm not sure where you're looking.
So the last column, column G, is year-to-date June 2019.
Ah, got it, yep.
But it's just 3 months. It's not actually January to June, right?
I did not ask that question of Lisa Trotter, who brought me these numbers. So if I could also just say, if council, in talking about these numbers in this data, has further questions, the main people that I need to work with to get you these answers are both on holidays right now. So the person who's generously devoted time to developing these numbers is not our normal contact. I asked her, because BC Transit wants a decision soon, I said, it's not fair to ask decision makers to make a decision without accurate data. So can you can you commit that I can get better data in a week's time? And they said yes. So if we have questions about these pieces of data and I see what I think are errors, I'm happy to go back with BC Transit and work with our regular person who is supposed to be, there's one person who I normally work with who will be back tomorrow.
Okay. It looks to me like it's April to June because their year runs from April to March.
Right.
So that would be 3 months. And if you multiply...
I see what you're saying.
4756, the number looks a heck of a lot better, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Okay, Councillor Holmes, and then Councillor Van Elfen, and then Councillor Traynor.
Okay, so I'd just like to get a couple things completely clear. We're talking about adding 1 round trip a day or 2 round trips a day?
2 round trips in the evening, so you would extend the run from Summerland to Penticton 2 more times in the evening. So if our last run right now is around, say it's around 6,
Yeah.
your last run would end up being probably around 7:30 or, I don't know the timing, but it would significantly, you'd be adding a trip here to Penticton.
So we're talking
back
4
to
more
there.
trips altogether?
4 more trips, 2 round trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 4 trips for $35,000.
4 trips, 5 times a week for a year.
And that's only $35,000?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's an excellent deal. And then, so
So, and just to specify, with BC Transit, we do have a really good deal because we only pay a portion. We pay a municipal share, so any increase to service is paid for in part by other functions.
So that would be our share, that $35,000?
Yes, that's right.
And then what about revenues from bus fares? What happens with that?
So we get revenues to the District of Summerland. They're not historically very high. They offset, but essentially our bus service costs us money, and it's something that if you choose to do it, you're subsidizing it, and you're doing it because you think it's the right thing to do. It's not until you get into a metro system that you'll actually see a balance, right?
I don't think any public transit system makes money, but so in our budget right now, we have $170,000 we pay for those 4 buses a day right now, 4 round trips a day right now, right? And then we have a $30,000 revenue, which works out to $140,000, which works up to $35,000 per round trip. So basically, we're getting a 2-for-1 deal on this? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out the math. Why are the others
Costing more?
$35,000 and this one, these 2 additional ones are half the price?
Well, since you've already paid for the cost, so the way a transit system works is there's a number of variables that are fixed that we've already taken care of. So we pay for a bus. We also have to have a backup bus, no matter what. So we have a spare bus that just sits around. So we have costs right out of the gate that are expensive. In some cases, if we were adding more hours, and like to Councillor Carlson's question about adding an afternoon trip or kind of widening that time for on-request service, if we did that, we would actually need to add another bus because we would have 2 buses in service at that time. So if we want to do that, then you have to look at where is your efficacy to the cost that you're spending to do something.
Okay.
So these afternoon trips are actually cheaper because we already have morning trips.
Then I had Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So when do they need to know by? What's the deadline?
The request for a decision from this council is, I think I calculated backwards that we need to know by August, and I think it might have been August 20th. I can't swear to that. But in talking today and looking at the council schedules, if you would like to defer your decision for more information, I said to her, can I get the information I need so that we can come back to you for your next meeting? Which means I need to get it this week, the additional information.
So it'd come forward on the 22nd of July?
You would have another opportunity to reconsider if it would be a better decision to make at that point.
Thank you. Councillor Traynor?
I just have a kind of bigger picture question. Overall, does BC Transit give suggestions for improving our transit ridership?
So because every community is different,
Yeah.
it's sometimes difficult to assess. But I attended, in my first year here, the BC Transit Conference that was held in Penticton. And at that conference, there were lots of knowledge-sharing opportunities where some of the best practices that were effective at gaining ridership were shared. And as I mentioned, the combined transit and rec pass was one of the most popular in lots of places and found to be effective. And because we're talking about a target market, you know, there's an investment, there's a cost, but there's also the greatest likelihood of lifelong adherence to a new practice if you're working with youth. Especially in light of the fact that we're doing this expansion to Kelowna, you know, the opportunity for people to see and use that system as well is great. As I mentioned, another extremely popular method, it's a smaller investment, but it's again targeting a different population. It's targeting the more senior cohort, senior or people with disabilities. The idea is give out a certain number of free transit passes and have that person, it has to be an influencer. You don't want someone who just goes by themselves. You need someone who's gregarious and outgoing and says, come with me, we can go to the mall. And by simply taking someone who did not know they could get to Cherry Lane Mall for the day, it creates a whole new kind of market.
Okay, can I just have one more question? So the 35,000, that's for 1 year. After a year, would we, or I guess while it's going on, would we be looking at that data and kind of deciding whether we would continue that the following year? Like, I'm just wondering if we would be,
So the way,
if it's working.
The way BC Transit has been administering the findings of the Transit Future Plan is it has looked at the requests from the public along a continuum and identified that in order to grow a more robust system, ridership needs to be increased. And in communities that experience growth, it's a lot easier to increase ridership. But in communities that are somewhat stable, like Summerland, the only way to increase ridership is going to be through some kind of campaign. And if, you know, we don't have hundreds more people moving to town who are now using the system. So BC Transit is responsive to council's requests, but they are also a giant juggernaut trying to plan the transit needs for this whole area, and they're basing it on a document that was already developed 4 years ago. 4 years, yeah. With what they believe are commitments from local government partners.
You had another question, Councillor Carlson, or?
I think
Councillor Holmes?
So I've kind of been asking this for years now, every time transit comes up, but I've always wanted to know, and I think I finally got the answer tonight. We don't know, but I've always wanted to know, what is the ridership just within Summerland? So not going to Penticton. Does anybody use that $2 ticket just within Summerland or not? Or have I heard that our record keeping can't tell us that?
Our record keeping can't tell us that.
Right.
However, I would say from the conversations I have with your riders, people don't use it to drive around Summerland. People use it to get to Penticton.
So I think another way we can promote ridership is just have, why do we have a fare just within Summerland? Why don't we just have free ridership within Summerland? And that gets people thinking, oh, I'll just hop on the bus and go to Trail Creek or whatever, and because it's free. And, then they get a way to get used to, even if it's just to go down the hill, they get accustomed to using the bus. I think, I don't think, personally, I don't think we need any more information. I think it's more a philosophical decision that we need to make right now. Do we want to, expand our service? Do we have this bus? My feeling is we have this bus. Let's maximize the use of it. And it's $35,000 a year. It's good value, I think, to maximize the use of the bus. If we're talking about having to buy a second bus, that's a different conversation altogether. But in terms of maximizing our bus, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think the more, one of the complaints you hear is that there's not enough buses, going into Penticton, so I'm not going to take it because I can't get back, right? So if we increase the frequency of buses to Penticton, that should make it more attractive to people to use. So I'm sorry.
Put that motion on the table.
So
Yeah, we don't have a motion on the table, so if you could hold on one second. Are there any more questions of staff?
I was going to ask.
Councillor Patton? No. You didn't have a question? I just have one quick question. Is the Route 70, I think it is, that's the one that's going to Kelowna? Is it still scheduled to start early in September? Do you
Yes,
know?
it says they're aiming to get it to coincide with the opening of school.
Of school. Perfect, thank you. Would you like to bring that resolution
I
forward?
would be honored to.
Thank you.
So I'll move that $35,000 be allocated during the 2020 budget process for increasing the transit service to include 2 new Route 30 round trips on weekday evenings, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the expansion memorandum of understanding and the 2020 to 2023 BC Transit annual operating agreement.
Seconded by Councillor Carlson.
May I speak to it too?
Yes.
I think that it's too bad it's not until next year. In the last week, we've made about half a dozen trips to Peachland to pick people up who can't get here from there, that are trying to get to Summerland to work and live and be here as part of our community. So I think that it's about time that we get some good transit, and I think that also having the ability for people to go into Penticton after work, or to go into, play soccer or do whatever it is that they do, is really important. And we also know that people will come here because that's what happens when there's a service like this. I've seen people get off that bus and go to the thrift store, and then they go and get back on the next one because it's a destination for people. So giving these extra trips is going to be very valuable, and so I look forward to having it roll out.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think that pass this motion, then we kind of have a year also to figure out how we do some better promotion of the service. And I think we should not only promote here in Summerland, but also promote in Penticton, maybe in conjunction with some of our festivals, and to encourage people in Penticton to come out here to take advantage of what we have to offer as well. So I think we need to spend a year figuring some of that out.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. I have a couple more questions. In the resolution, it talks about a 2020 to 2023 annual operating agreement. That's just, we can review that after every year, as Councillor Traynor was asking?
I believe so, but I'll confirm that.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I had was related to Councillor Holmes suggesting to have a bus, for people that want to move around Summerland, including Trout Creek. If that was an option, would that mean that we'd have to have another bus? Because it would be it would be an extra bus.
I don't think it would mean that. I think that the existing service would simply, essentially, drivers would be instructed to let anybody on between Trout Creek and Summerland downtown. And it is only once you leave Trout Creek to head into Penticton that you cross a regional boundary.
Right.
And, it would not be a difficult thing to roll out, to the best of my knowledge. I'll check with BC Transit, because I think it's an exciting idea for an initiative, and I know lots of towns that are successful by having free downtown rides. It is a great way to get people to use the service, and it is a great way to, particularly if you're from Trout Creek trying to get up the hill and you don't feel like walking, it's a great way to bring our town together. We have a very disparate community, and so helping people get around is a great idea.
So we wouldn't be talking about having extra stops then with the extra cost of the bus infrastructure?
So my understanding of what Councillor Holmes has suggested is using the existing service, but saying that the downtown rides would all be free, and half those stops are downtown, well, and including Trout Creek, so.
Just click the fair in Trout Creek.
Okay, Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So right now, our existing stops are in the downtown core and Trout Creek,
IGA.
IGA.
And there's one up at the seniors village too.
Okay,
So there's the seniors village,
Correct.
there's in front of between the library and the Arts and Cultural Center. There's one on Victoria across from the post office, so I guess that's what you're calling the IGA? Or no?
No, no.
There is one down at the IGA and
Yeah.
across from the Tim Hortons as well, and at Trout Creek. It's
And
right
there's
by the
one on
school.
Rosedale too, by the high school.
By the high school, yeah.
So the only reason I'm asking is if we could add a stop in Lower Town, the last stop in Lower Town, and then a long way short to Trout Creek. And I think the youth would use it a lot more to get down to the beach, but, you're adding one. stop.
So that wouldn't be on the existing route as I know it, which would be a challenge.
Okay, I just thought I'd,
Yeah, what we have done is we have worked with BC Transit, so if there's a rider, say, getting on in Penticton that wants to be on the route that goes through Penticton, essentially it takes you down to the Cherry Lane Mall, and then you come back by the South Okanagan Event Center. So there's a Penticton bus stop that is in front of the Tim Hortons, basically the mall that the T-Bones and the Starbucks is in. There's a Penticton bus stop there, and I've been approached by riders who've said, I actually really want to get off there, and I really want to get on there. Can I do that? Because our bus does go past it as a part of their trip. It's just not a part of our stops. And I did get a lot of pushback from BC Transit initially because this adds to the timings, and it can create challenges for the logistics. But we were able to get it designated a stop that someone could both ask for and wait for, and essentially wave down the bus. So you kind of got to have a sense that you're in Mexico when you're trying to get a ride. But it's sort of an ad hoc stop, but it has been recognized as an ad hoc stop. Yeah, it's on demand, exactly.
Good. Any further discussion? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Holmes was very convincing. I have one question in regards to the ride-on requests, the ambulatory ride-on requests. Would those requests be on the two nightly trips?
The on request is always available, but it isn't, I guess that's the wrong way to say it. You can call and ask for a ride anytime. It just can't always be satisfied, your request can't always be satisfied if someone else is booked. So even, we could have 5 requests from Trout Lake. Aaron and others could all want to do laundry in Penticton, and they could, I'm sorry, it's a little casual.
You can just come to my place.
Go to the lake.
If, at the same time as all those Trout Creek riders wanted to go and do laundry, they will be asked, what is the purpose of your trip? If the dispatcher who's coordinating the seats in the bus knows that 5 people want to do laundry from Trout Creek, and then that dispatcher gets one request for a medical appointment, they will bump the laundry appointments for the medical appointment. So there's a kind of discretion being exercised at the dispatch office, which has to do with measuring your need, and the person with the greatest need wins for a ride. And that could mean, from a logistics perspective, it could mean they bump other people.
Thank you.
Yep. It's very complicated.
All right. No further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unopposed. Thank you. We learned everything we never knew and more, probably.
Actually, Counselor doesn't have a washing machine.
Yeah, exactly. I think she probably does. So on to 11.4, the Aeneas Creek update, and this is Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
This reports to give council an update on Aeneas Creek following the open house that we had on June 26th, and to update council on our status with our disaster financial assistance application and our Section 11s. So we had an open house, like I said, on June 26th. It was well attended. It was an opportunity for residents to come ask questions about their specific property or anything they had any questions on from the report itself. Since then, we've submitted our application to DFA with the 6 projects that are identified in the report. So those are the ones where there was damage that occurred from the flooding that were noted in the report. A lot of the other projects that are listed in that report are where there's culverts that maybe were inadequately sized or should be upsized, but there was no physical damage that arose from the flooding in 2018. So these 6 projects have been put forward. The total cost is around $577,000. If we were to get all 80% funding through the DFA program, that would leave about $115,000 for the district to fund for those repairs. However, in order to move this forward in the Section 11 and the DFA process, we need to complete the detailed design and the environmental plans that go along with those projects. And so there's a request brought forward here to allocate $45,000 from the Capital Works Reserve towards this project to do those detailed designs and environmental plans.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Holmes.
So the 45,000 isn't part, that's separate from the 577, or is part of?
That's part of.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you. So some of this repairs that need to be performed, or some of this is on private land? Like culverts, under driveways, so to speak, or just municipal?
Of these 6, no. These are ones that they're all municipal property or adjacent to municipal property. So there's the outlet to the lake where some dredging is required. There's 3 locations along Prairie Valley Road, 1 in the campground and 2 along the roadway where there's erosion that's caused a significant amount of damage. There's the Centennial Trail section along Peach Orchard Road, and then there's the situation over on Tingley and Garnet Ave where we currently still have emergency works in place on private property. So that would be the removal of that emergency works and then dredging through there.
Councillor Carlson.
So in order to do that private property, is there a process? Does it become, do you have to expropriate it or something? Or is it part of,
No, because
it's an emergency?
It would be within the current corridor of the creek itself.
Oh, okay.
We would have to get an agreement with the landowner to go onto their property to remove those emergency works. And removal of the emergency works would be 100% funded. It would be the remediation that would be 80%.
And what about the replacement or the loss for that property owner of usable land or trees that are in the ground, or is that part of the consideration?
I guess that needs to be confirmed through the detailed design on what that end product looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Has there been any further conversations of a realignment on that Tingley Garnet Avenue?
There has, and currently there's no desire from the one resident to anyways.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Traynor.
I was just going to ask, once, if this 45,000 is approved and the work is done, the environmental management plan and detailed designs, then what's the timeline estimated to complete the projects if everything's approved?
We're working to get everything completed before next freshet. That's when our significant risk will be, depending on how the snowpack is leading into next spring. So with that, a lot of this work, there's a significant amount that's done outside of the stream, so it can be done at any time of the year. But the work that's done in stream, there's a very narrow window in August, which obviously we will be struggling to hit this year. But we can still go ahead with those works if we have the environmental plan states
Yeah.
when we're doing the work. And we work with Ministry of Environment to set up any precautions or mitigating measures that need to be in place to do that work.
And then my second question is, would this work be done by district staff, or would we be contracting out? Like, do we have the capacity to get all this done?
It would be contracted out.
It would, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Councillor Van Alphen?
Put the motion on the floor, Madam Mayor.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, please.
Thank you. That 45,000 be allocated from the Capital Works Reserve to Eunice Creek Restoration for engineering consulting services required to complete the required environmental management plans and detailed designs, and that staff prepare a bylaw to amend Financial Plan 2019-2023, bylaw number 2019-012 to incorporate these changes.
Seconder, Councillor Patton. And Councillor Carlson, did you have a question?
I was going to second it.
Okay,
but
great.
It's not on the table yet.
So any further discussion on this? Councillor Barkwell.
Just one question on the, it sounded like the $45,000 that we would contribute right now for the design would be part of our 115,000 share of the total project, is that, or is it in a, yeah?
So engineering is included in that overall estimate of 577.
Mhm.
So we would have 80% of the engineering and construction funded through DFA if it was all deemed to be remediation. So if it's, so the engineering we would get 80% of that 45,000 back
Right. Yeah.
if everything's approved.
Okay, so that 577 includes the
It
45, so, yeah, so,
It includes a percentage
Yeah.
of engineering in the estimates, yes.
okay, good.
Okay. Councillor Van Alphen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So once this project is completed, will we continue looking down Eunice Creek towards the dam for we had identified other issues and spots?
Definitely. So priority was given to the areas where we had damage that we could get DFA funding on, because there's limits on timelines for those works.
Okay.
Then we'd be looking at the next steps, whether it's culvert, whether it's looking at the dam itself, whether it's the access road out there. There's a number that were listed that we would work through and bring forward during budget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On our Section 11, I believe we discussed that it was just for the municipality, the Section 11. I know at one time we were talking about doing a blanket Section 11 for private property owners also. But did we change course on that, where we're just, this is just for municipal works?
Yeah, so we can't, the process with the private owners still requires some discussion with Flinro. So this is looking at the 6 projects that the district has jurisdiction over that we can do the repairs. The other projects, there was a different ideas thrown out there with the ministry and about having a mediator that facilitates between them, the private owner, and the province to get the appropriate approvals in place so that they can go ahead with the work, and it's a coordinated effort and they're just not left on their own. That still needs to be worked out. As far as the Section 11, when we went to apply, they recommended that we just look at our works right now because that process hasn't been fleshed out. Once it is, then that's when we'll determine how those other works are held. But even if, yeah, so it was looking at sort of getting not necessarily a Section 11 approval in place, but a process that would allow a private owner to more easily get those approvals.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Ready for the, oh no, Councillor Van Alphen.
Just a clarification or a quick question, if I may. So would it be of benefit for council to talk to Flinro at the UBCM and see if there's any will from Flinro to help assist homeowners with costs?
Yeah, potentially. We had that discussion this week, whether that should be a topic that's discussed. And we've had Flinro at the table with the 2 public sessions that were held, one in November and one in April. And they seemed open to the idea of having that discussion, but what that ultimate end product looks like is to be determined.
Thank you.
You're all ready to vote, aren't you?
No, I have a thing, but it's not this.
Would you like to bring your thing forward?
No, I was just thinking about how if we were to end up in a situation where there's far too much water coming out of Garnet Valley and the creek cannot contain it, we'd have a really big emergency. And so I think that taking these steps is critical, and it's good that we have Flynn Road on like starting to understand that, because the last thing we need is for that water to reach downtown.
Yeah. It's nice to have this year of reprieve, too. Okay, I'm going to call the question now. All those in favor? Okay, and none opposed? Thank you, Chris. Angelique? 11.5, Giant's Head Mountain Park recognition request. Jeremy? Is it? No, that's Chris again. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A request came in from Mr. Gord Dunstan to look at installing a recognition plaque of some sort on Giant's Head Mountain, specifically to recognize Don Egger and Pat Bruce for the initial construction of the roadway. After reviewing this request, staff is recommending that this be brought forward to the Park and Recreation Advisory Committee for further review and recommendation back to council on this request. Initially, there was just some concerns raised about recognizing two individuals for that when there may have been others that were involved, and that a thorough investigation be committed by, or be completed by the advisory committee to bring back to council.
Thank you. Councillor Carlson and then Holmes.
I was going to move the motion unless someone has a question.
Do you have a question? Thank you, Councillor Holmes.
So what exactly are we asking the Parks and Rec Committee to review and provide a recommendation on that? About an installation in the park, about the cultural heritage significance of recognizing the two men, or about a policy and process that we need to put in place?
I would say that if council is on board for recognizing the group that was initially responsible for constructing that road up Giant's Head Mountain, if council's in agreement with that, then I would recommend that be taken to the board to then determine who should be recognized on that, and maybe and what that would look like, whether, you know, what type of plaque or where that would be installed. That would be my thoughts. If council's not in favor or doesn't want to pursue recognition of that initial construction, then I don't see the need to refer it. But my thoughts would be that it would be specific to that request.
Well, I guess my thoughts are, I have no problem recognizing the two individuals, but I think when we're thinking of Giant's Head Mountain, I think we need to think beyond that. I think we need to think maybe some sort of interpretive sign or something at the park entrance, you know, that describes the natural and human history and heritage of the mountain, its cultural significance to Summerland, its origins as a park, you know, including the role of Mr. Egger and Mr. Bruce, and you know, just tell the story of Giant's Head Mountain. I think that's what really would have much more impact and would do everybody more justice. That's my sense.
Councillor Traynor?
Yeah, I completely agree with Councillor Holmes. I think that identifying two individuals, while I'm sure they did great work, I think it's a dangerous thing to do. There's a lot of people who have put a lot of work into Giant's Head over the years, and I think that a nice sign that talks about the history, which could mention these two individuals, as well as other groups that have contributed over the last while, especially considering we're having so much work done on the mountain right now that involves the Rotary and the province and the district. I just think that naming two people right now is just, I don't think that that's a good thing to do, but I definitely think a historical sign would be really interesting for people. And in that, we could mention these two.
So might I put a motion forward that we send that opportunity to the Parks and Rec Commission to have or committee to have a conversation about what a sign would look like? It would, I assume, become part almost become part of the Giant's Head project that's currently ongoing. So that would, yeah, I would put forward a motion that the Parks and Rec Committee look at the opportunities to have a historic, or a, what kind of sign would it be? Commemorative, historic, interpretive sign at the entrance of Giant's Head to explain the cultural, historical, geographical significance of the mountain. Something like that.
Are you seconding that, Councillor
Well,
Bucko?
I guess for the sake of discussion.
Okay. And would you like to go ahead then?
I think my understanding of what you're proposing is to have a more comprehensive sign when you say.
Or to have the
interpret-
Parks and Rec Committee
Yeah.
talk about what a sign might look like.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't want to have Mr. Dunstan's contribution to initiating this discussion get lost in the discussion. I think we've taken his idea, which is a great one, and, expanded on it. So, and it'll be, a bigger and better thing.
So you want a name in the motion somehow? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I just,
Or is it-
you want to be clear that you're talking about a more comprehensive,
Yes,
asking what a more
and
comprehensive.
it's not, it's not an idea that
interpretive
came out of
sign.
nowhere. It's a really good idea that should be inclusive of,
There's a lot of history, there's
The whole
geological
mountain.
history, there's everything, yeah.
When you're speaking of the cultural significance of Giant's Head, I also would like to include the Silk people's
be nice.
cultural,
and we could
because
have
it is significant to them as
perhaps
well.
the name, because I imagine it's not always been called Giant's Head
I
Mountain.
would imagine it hasn't been,
We should find out.
yes. Councillor Van Elfen?
Well, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for an interpretive type sign, and, there's even the geological history of that mountain. It's a volcano. So there's all that, but I'm grateful this has been brought forward, and I can appreciate the names going on that sign somewhere, but I think there's so much opportunity here to, like you say, and to include our neighbors, our First Nations neighbors, and find out some history on it.
Yeah.
Some of the elders may have a lot of very interesting history, and we can incorporate all that into one nice sign, and recognizing the people that started it, and the wonderful benefits we're getting from it today.
Councillor Holmes? Yeah, Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thanks. I don't want to get this to become too much of a bureaucratic process, but I think we also should refer it to the Cultural Advisory Committee, since it is a cultural, it's a cultural icon of Summerland. And then depending what they come back with and recommend, we'll need to also then, or maybe they'll recommend how we then collect that information, and whether that we reach out to the Heritage Society, and certainly I'd hope that we do reach out to Mr. Dunstan as well, and anybody else who can provide the information that needs to be included.
It's too bad Angelique left. She could have taken
Yes.
taken this on right now.
Collaborative process. Okay, before we vote, Mr. Gord Dunstan is in the gallery. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. I think we've had a good discussion here, and that your thoughts have been brought forward as well. Are you comfortable with that?
I'm definitely comfortable. I'm glad from what I hear around the table that you can expand on this. I think that's an important part of it.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, we're ready to vote then. So, Nicole, you have the revised resolution? You don't have to read it out, just if you have the general idea.
Yes, the general motion that was put forward.
By Councillor Carlson.
And then it was moved and seconded.
Yes.
And then there was a suggestion to include First Nations
Yes,
people.
as part of the cultural.
And then to also refer it to the Cultural Advisory Heritage Society and Mr. Dunstan.
Yes.
Those should be brought forward as a motion to amend the main motion, because the motion's already on the floor as, and that recommendations for a comprehensive interpretive sign for Giant's Head Mountain Park be provided by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee and be referred.
Okay, so you'd like us to vote on the amendment first?
Yeah,
Yes?
to bring forward
Yes.
a motion to amend the main motion that's already on the floor.
Okay, is that what you'd like to bring forward?
I think the only amendment we need is to also to include the Cultural Advisory Committee in it being referred to. All the other organizations will be part of the process to collect the information that afterwards that would come up with.
Okay.
So I don't think we need to add.
So the Culture Advisory Committee, do you mean the Cultural Development Committee, or is there another group?
You're the-
Oh, Cultural Development Committee, yeah.
no.
Okay, so we don't need an amendment?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we do need an
Just to
amendment
include-
still,
yeah,
just to include that. So you've seconded the amendment? All in favor of the amendment? Okay, great. And that's all we need to do, or do we need to do the,
And now we need to vote on the main motion.
on the main
as
motion?
amended.
As amended, thank you.
Referring it
So
to
we-
two committees.
Yes.
Yes, to the Parks and Recreation and the Cultural Development Committee. Right. So I'll just call the question on that. There's no further discussion, right? Okay, all in favor? Oops. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now on to 11.6, Anglican Cemetery, the family history sign request. Chris again?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This request came from Mr. Gord Dunstan as well. It was to look at purchasing an unowned plot or a suspected unowned plot in the Anglican Cemetery to install some sort of a family heritage sign on that. Because of the uniqueness of this request, staff thought it would be important to bring it to council. One, to just remind council that we no longer sell plots at the Anglican Cemetery. When the district took over that cemetery, the records that were to come along with it were not available. They did not come. So as far as the certainty is if those plots are unowned or empty, there's uncertainty with that. So there are still family plots that are owned that families are able to continue to have add to those add burials to those existing plots. But as far as selling any of the ones that may or may not be unowned or unoccupied, we do not carry forward with that. And then just as far as a sign, I didn't talk specifics with Mr. Dunstan about what the family was looking at for installing, but the bylaw does specify monuments and has pretty strict guidelines as far as what's allowable. So if it did fit within those, then it would be permitted unless council, something unique was brought forward that council was in agreement with, then you could approve that outside of the bylaw. But yeah, that's the nature of the request, and just looking for council's direction that the specific request for a sign on that plot be denied.
Okay, Councillor Barkle, you have a question?
Yeah, I guess anything would have to fit with the bylaws and such, but I question the records of the district because I confirmed with a family member that they came down to the district office and bought a plot and received a copy of a map of the cemetery with their purchase, and it shows, and they have it at their place, you know, a section of the cemetery. So somewhere in the district's offices here must be a map of that cemetery.
In the Anglican Cemetery.
Yeah, the Anglican Cemetery, I'm speaking of. Because I confirmed tonight that they got it here. It was 10 years ago, mind you,
Right.
before your time.
Yeah.
So I would suggest you might want to have another look there. And as far as heritage, family heritage thing, would it be possible for Mr. Dunstan to erect some sort of monument that fit the guidelines and stuff on an existing family plot? And just maybe more comprehensive rather than, from this date to this date, list relatives and things that that fit the guidelines and fill the bill for Mr. Dunstan?
It's something we could explore, but yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, the requirements or the guidelines around the memorial monuments are spelled out as far as size and material type.
I think actually, our family has all the rest of the plots, and I'm not planning on using mine, so maybe I could. But, no, I think there might be some solutions, and, you know, every time, and also the funeral homes, they must have a map, because they seem to be able to do their job in the right place, I hope.
No, I believe there's information on the existing family plots, but there's some, I believe, that there's no record of who owns them, and we're not making the assumption that they are unoccupied.
Yeah, that would be dangerous.
And unowned, right?
Yeah. Unless you have a map.
Right. And confirmation that they were unoccupied.
See how?
Your worship, maybe the best way to deal with it is let's see what Mr. Dunstan has in mind. My only caution be, whatever is allowed, then should be allowed to, if it's based on, pioneering family and some ability to do something, then that's the policy, and you may just want to have that kind of criteria, so then you don't have to do this every time, kind of what's going to be allowed and what's acceptable to any other Barkwell family or anyone else that may raise the issue again. I mean, doing that's fine, I think, as long as everybody understands that whatever council does would be prepared to do for any other pioneer family, and so they'll just set the policy, and then everybody knows what it is, and if it's acceptable and it's something that, you think is good, then for the community to acknowledge that, then that's the policy. So I think if Mr. Dunstan could come forward and to staff and kind of give an idea what they have in mind, then that could at least be brought back, and if there's exception, then it's exception for everyone.
Okay. Any other questions of Chris or Councillor Van Alphen?
So would it be appropriate, Madam Mayor, to put a motion on the table to table this?
To defer it, yes,
To
to
defer
another,
it?
yes?
That's my motion then.
Okay, seconder? Councillor Patton? Any further discussion? This deferred so it gives our Works and Utilities an opportunity to speak with Mr. Dunstan. And
Correct,
yes,
Madam Mayor.
okay. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? And none opposed. Thank you. Item 12 is information items, correspondence that we've received. Is there any piece of correspondence that a councillor would like to bring forward? Okay, could I have somebody make the motion to receive those for information? Councillor Carlson? Councillor Patton, seconds? All those in favor? Thank you. Now on to councillor reports. Councillor Barkwell, I'll start with you this.
I haven't been anywhere that other people have been as well, so nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, probably not fair to ask you. Councillor Carlson?
I have been extremely busy, but it hasn't been on council business. So, welcome all the people you see in town that you don't recognize, because they're probably working here and participating in your local economy.
Okay. Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I have nothing to report this week. Thank you.
Councillor Traynor?
I don't have anything to report, but I have a very quick, funny story.
Okay.
Bryn White, she works with the district sometimes. Her son graduated this year, and when he was in grade 7 in Summerland, they had to write a note to themselves when they graduated. So he opened this note this last week, because he graduated, and he said in grade 7, however long, I guess that was 6 years ago, he said, "I hope the district actually builds a skate park."
Hey!
And so he opened it, and he had forgotten that he'd written that, and so I thought that was kind of a funny story.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Thank you, Councillor Traynor. And Councillor Holmes?
No, I've spoken too much these days.
All right. Okay, so is there anybody in the gallery that would like to come forward to the podium and speak to anything? Councillor, Mr. Dunstan. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Gordon Dunstan. I live in 21821 Garnet Valley Road.
Thank you, Mayor Boots, for allowing me to speak, and council members. I'll just add a bit more information on this last request that was on the agenda. Unfortunately, it's left to my generation to kind of deal with this. It's a rather sensitive topic that I have to deal with, but I'll kind of try to skim over it and not drag this on too long. I found out when I was in my late 20s that I actually had a brother who was born in Summerland Hospital, and he passed away 15 hours later. And I was out at the cemetery once with my mother, and she showed me where his grave was. And at that time, the back of the Anglican cemetery was kind of grown in with bushes and that coming in, and that's where the babies were buried. Now you advance up until about, I think it was 19... in the late 70s, I was again out at the cemetery with my mother, and to our shock, I don't know the exact date when the municipality took over the maintenance of the cemetery. All I can remember was back in the late 60s, a man by the name of Bill Eyre used to go in and do cribbings around the cemetery plots. Now, I don't know who Mr. Eyre worked for, but this work was completed. Anyways, I had visited the cemetery again with my parents, and we went to go back to where the back of the cemetery was, where my brother was buried, and the municipality had smoothed the land right out, right down to the dirt, and there was nothing left. There used to be a little metal tag there. So I kind of question the fact that there is no records. I have a record that I actually got through a lady in Summerland who got in touch with the Kootenai Diocese, and I got a letter back from them giving the names of the people in the Anglican cemetery and the babies. And there was actually 2. But now that paper that I got back was only kind of for that alphabetical group that my brother fell in. So there could be other babies, I'm not sure. I didn't ask if there was any further paperwork on that. However, so it's disturbing that this error, and it's a sensitive error, it's disturbing that this has happened. And I've spoken with municipal heads, namely Chris, and I find out that no more sites are available to buy. The site that's really adjacent to my grandfather's grave has been empty since his funeral in 1963. And when I asked up at the Department of Works, I was asked if there was any graves close to it. There is one grave at the foot of it, but that person was passed away and was interred in 1953. So that site has remained open since '63 when I first saw it, when we buried my grandfather. So I kind of feel confident that there is nobody in that site, but I can't prove it. And if there are no more sites being sold from that cemetery, I just feel that to right a wrong that was done years ago, I think that we should either inherit that site or have someone inspect it to prove that there's no one there.
Okay, Mr. Dunstan, I'm just going to have to cut you off because it's a 2-minute speaker's time.
Yeah, sorry.
But our staff will be working with you on finding some kind of solution to this, and it'll be coming forward to council again.
Fine. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't realize there was a 2.
No, that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Anyone else?
Marianne McDonald, 6505 McDonald Place. I'm wondering if council is aware that the Ames services, which have taken over for Argo, are looking at the old sawmill site in James Lake area. I have no problem with that. What I am concerned about is what is the impact to the Victoria Road and the roundabouts from the graders and things like that. So that was the first swing. And the second one is, I bring it up again, is bulk waste. I really would like to see council investigate or direct staff to investigate the possibility of that after having seen what Surrey, the District of Surrey has done, and they've had a really good success with people bringing bulk waste and getting rid of stuff that would either go by the wayside or into the bush or anywhere but to the dump. So it's just something else to think about. And to expand on that as well is to consider having the curbside. I've pointed it out to Councillor Barkwell. In Australia, they have the bulk waste week, but it's kind of a free-for-all that people can go around and cherry pick what they would like. So what's one man's junk might be someone else's treasure. And there is limitations on the size and everything, but it's there, and I think it's something that we could consider in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to come and speak at the podium? All right. John Art, do you have any questions for us?
You're very clear today.
Oh, good. Good. And relatively short and sweet, too. So, could I have somebody bring forward adjournment? Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Patton, all in favor? Great, we are adjourned. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Did you want to say anything?
I'll wait.
Okay. Could I just have council just stay in your seats for a moment?